Doesn't really appear to be much to look at, but this wild turkey is a beautiful bird to many, many hunters in Michigan. It was hunters who brought these birds back. Back in 1950, we had no turkeys in this state, but hunters put on a concerted effort to try to reintroduce them. We now have over 20,000 of these birds. This is a Michigan gobbler. There were probably many Michigan gobblers eaten this afternoon by hunters and their families who really enjoyed them. We're going to tell you about turkeys, have a Thanksgiving Day special, so stay tuned. I'm Fred Trost. It's Thursday night, time for Michigan Outdoors. The wild turkey was very close to becoming our national bird. Benjamin Franklin fought to make this forest inhabitant the symbol of colonial America. Now, despite the turkey's unusual looks, this bird has a lot of good old American traits. It's a survivor, even in circumstances that are challenging. It's a flocking bird, gregarious among its own kind, watching out for each other's protection. It toughs it out in the woods year-round, roosting in trees at night and walking the woodlands and fields during the day, eating seeds, grasses, and insects. Turkeys don't migrate south. They're year-round residents to the North Country, and there's no bird that's more popular at holiday time than the turkey. Its popularity, though, is its biggest problem in the late 1800s. The combination of early Americans taking turkeys for food and market hunting and the loss of forest land to the logging industry left wild turkey populations at an all-time low in 1900. In fact, none were left in Michigan. Trapping turkeys has become their saving grace. In the 1950s, cannon nets and later drop nets like this one were used to trap wild turkeys so they could be transplanted to new locations. In 1954, Michigan acquired 50 game farm turkeys from Pennsylvania and turned them loose in Allegan County as an experiment. It worked. The late 50s, some of the Allegan turkeys were netted and transplanted to northern Michigan. Now, some said these transplants wouldn't survive, but they were wrong. Today, most of Michigan's 20,000 wild turkeys live in the northern Lower Peninsula. Now, on this day, the drop net worked, but the wary turkeys wouldn't come in to feed on the corn underneath. Winter is the time when turkeys flock in the largest groups, all around food. It's tough for every animal to find food under the snow and the ice. And southern Michigan, with its agricultural land and mild winters, could be a boom for the right breed of wild turkey, which is why the DNR brought in a strain from Iowa, Vermont, Missouri, and Pennsylvania. On paper, it looks ideal, but Bob Garner asked the DNR's Wayne Bronner if this experiment has any pitfalls.
We have our finger on just what the real biological facts are. Turkeys in agricultural habitats, kind of a new game for everyone. Now, we're hoping we've prepared the public here. There's quite a bit of excitement and enthusiasm and just downright support for this turkey reintroduction project, whereas maybe prior releases didn't have publicity and public support quite to that extent. Now, the unique part of this situation here in southern Michigan is that turkeys used to be here, but right around the turn of the century, they were pretty well wiped out, and that was a combination of severe habitat loss, market hunting, which is obviously just severely unregulated hunting, people hunting for profit, and they just exterminated the turkeys. And since the turn of the century, there's been very few birds in southern Michigan. Iowa has started a reintroduction program. If you have any kind of a conception of what Iowa looks like, there's not very doggone much timber out there. Actually, only about 4% of the state of Iowa is in timber. And they started a reintroduction program of some turkeys in 1967, and now they feel they have 30 to 35,000 turkeys in that state. It's just really amazing the way those turkeys have blended into the mixed agricultural wooded habitats.
Well, Bob, a historic moment. There's Dr. Howard Tanner, the man who really introduced coho salmon into Michigan.
Well, I hope this planting is just it's written in history the way that salmon planting was.
I love it. I really look forward to the turkey population, a huntable turkey population in southern Michigan.
Here's a spring gobbler called in by guide Mick Furbush and Bob Garner. You can hear them imitating hen turkeys clucking, and the gobbler will respond. As the camera pulls back, you can see how close that pig Tom has come in. At times, he's only 15 feet from the callers. You can see Bob sitting at the base of the tree there, absolutely motionless, completely camouflaged, careful not even to look at the turkey while he blinks. This gobbler isn't as wary as they usually are because he's preoccupied with mating. That's what he has on his mind. It's the end of April. His instincts tell him to look for a lovable hen. Now, this is the only time of year the tom turkeys can be called in effectively by making the sounds of a hen. Most hens are on the nest at this time of year, so hunters don't even see them in the woods. Now, we'll be able to see the second caller, Mick Furbish from Muskegon. He's sitting at the base of the tree to the left. If this gobbler was his normal wary self during the rest of the year and not preoccupied with trying to show off for a hen, he'd be using his eyes to spot those two callers. Turkeys have a visual resolution that is 10 times better than humans. Now, this means that in the same amount of time it takes us to, say, detect the second hand moving on a clock, a turkey in that same amount of time can actually watch the minute hand move. So when you look at a turkey and blink, an alert bird will see your eyelids close and open. They'll recognize it as a sign of a fox or a coyote or a wolf or an owl or a hawk, something that has two eyes in the front of its head and probably eats meat, and that bird will vanish. In this case, the brush and twigs that would prevent a clean shot also screen us from good view by the turkey, but by making a move at such close range, well, that would really be difficult while hunting. But moments like this make turkey hunting one of the ultimates in excitement in the hunting world. Just getting that close to a gobbler is a big accomplishment. Now, hunters take a little over 2,000 gobblers each spring in Michigan. Both Bob and I got our gobblers this October in the UP during the special fall hunt. But hunter interest showed that spring is a much more popular time for turkey hunting in this state. To control the harvest, you must have a permit. Applications will be available during the month of January. I tell you, taking nothing from the eagle, I'd vote for the wild turkey, my favorite bird in Michigan outdoors. We had a fellow, Rick Shanks from Burton, who sent us some pictures from other buck poles on opening weekend. Here's Lewiston's buck pole, a small buck pole, but some nice bucks taken up there. Luzerne had a couple of dandy racks, looks like some good-sized deer. At Bluegills, that's at St. Helens, of course, they had a few deer up on the buck pole, not comparing to the number of deer that were brought in at Skips at Grayling. Look at this. Rick taped a number of photos together to give us a span of the buck pole, but a lot of deer, a lot of big deer, big antlers, and big body size. Tuck's buck pole at Houghton Lake had a record 92 deer brought in over opening weekend. The second weekend, once again, from Jackson County. Will this buck turn out to be the one on top of the heap? Well, we'll find out big buck night for sure when Brad Bruce does the final judging on these racks. But Larry Taylor, you called me and you said you had a big one. How big is it?
We had it measured at 17, but I say there's 20 here.
You say there's 20. You're a man like me. You like all the points you can get. Your brother Kevin and you were hunting.
Right.
Opening day?
16.
No, 16.
The second day of the season. That's the day that a lot of hunters thought would be the charm if they didn't connect on opening day. You were lucky hunting down in Jackson County?
Right.
Yep.
Where at? Cornfield or?
State land.
State land.
State land?
Yep.
Oh, that's a good omen. You want to point out on the map exactly where that is?
Yeah, I would.
You
mind.
would?
Yeah.
No, I'll tell you what. They're not going to have to do that. That's some land that you've looked for and cultivated that is obviously very productive, open to the public. That's a good enough hint right there, down in Jackson County. But let's count the tines on this rack. Take this side. This looks like the easy side. 1, 2, 3. This one will hold a ring. 4, 5. That's easy. 6. Let's see, there's one behind here. 7, 8, 9, 10. Easy 10 points on this side, according to my system. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 for sure. Boy, you know what breaks my heart? A tine like this one here that's been broken off that, oh man,
That's not going to hold the ring.
it won't hold a ring. You've worked on that. But you know there was a tine there.
Yes.
Maybe I ought to do something in my rules. It says if there's obviously a tine was there. Maybe you get a point. You'd probably
I like
beat that.
that.
You
That'd
would
be
like
nice,
that.
yeah. That'd be nice.
I don't think I'm going to change it this year. We'll let Brad Bruce officiate, see if he can pull a couple more points out of this for Big Buck Night. It might be close to that 20-pointer.
Okay.
We'll hear the story December 11th, okay?
All right.
Thank
Live across the state. Thanks, guys.
Yep.
Headlines in the trophy book, and now let's go to Bob Garner.
And hats off this week to Detroit Free Press outdoor editor Tom Opry. Several weeks ago, Tom argued against big deer contests that paid out big cash prizes. Specifically, he opposed a contest sponsored by a major brewery that in Michigan would pay $25,000 to the person tagging the biggest buck. Opry contended in his article and on a follow-up article last Sunday that hunting contests for big cash prizes go against the grain of why we hunt and the ethics of modern-day hunting. To put it bluntly, he says the basic idea stinks. He says he'll never promote that type of contest for deer hunters in his columns that might encourage poor ethics or outright cheating. We at Michigan Outdoors agree.
I want to add my personal congratulations to Tom Opry for his articles and explaining that these buck contests for money don't get it with most sportsmen. I think this probably holds true, Bob, for sportsmen around the world.
Last thing I think of when I'm deer hunting is some big amount of money I could win. Doesn't make any sense at all. We got a letter here, Fred, from Lawrence Andrews of Nipawin, Saskatchewan. He writes and he says, hello from a hunter and fisherman in northeastern Saskatchewan, up where the swamp, bush, and rocks began. We watch your program every Thursday evening from PBS Detroit. I can't understand why so many hunters from south of the border come up here to hunt our trophy deer when you have so many trophies down there. The ones you have on your show put most of ours at the bottom of the list. Do you have much trouble with poachers and night hunters?
Well, we won't, Lawrence, after a few more of them get smacked with our $1,000 restitution fees, which they're getting hit with down here. We got some tough poaching laws. Why does everybody want to go up to Saskatchewan? Because it's Saskatchewan, north of the border. What more romantic place to go for the romance of the north and call of the wild than Canada? So that's why I think we like to go up there. As far as big bucks, well, I got a 2-point last week.
Hey, great.
The top of my list.
Have you had any venison yet?
You bet. I had just today, by the way. In fact, we're going to have some coming up. A great recipe with Kathy Beitler. But first, let's see if you can answer this question in our outdoor quiz.
If a person has not hunted by the time they reach 24 years old, what are the chances they'll take up hunting in future years? Not very great. A U.S. Fish and Wildlife survey showed that only 4% of all hunters began after age 24. The vast majority, 74%, began hunting before they were 16. Hunting is a family activity, most often passed on from father to son.
The sign says, state land open to hunting. That's something we all like to see in Michigan, something that opens up a lot of recreation and opportunity to us. But there's an awful lot of state land that it looks like it's being protected from off-road vehicles and the noise and pollution and tearing up of the landscape, especially by a lot of kids who seem to get in there and horse around. So these little barriers have been put up to prevent that from happening. There's only one problem with this. We have many, many sportsmen in this state who have become handicapped, who have permits, and who can't get past these logs with their cars or vehicles so they can hunt. This is the four-wheel drive vehicle of Don Basie and his wife Judy, who hunt down in Hillsdale area.
That's state game Hillsdale, yes. Hillsdale, state game area, Lost Nations.
You have always been a big hunter.
Yes.
And fisherman, sportsman, dating back to how old? When did you
12.
start? 12 years old? How many deer have you taken in Michigan?
In 20 years before my accident, I took 17.
Man, and you've hunted out west?
Yes, we've hunted in Wyoming. We've hunted in Colorado together. We've hunted in Canada.
The two of you. So when, this happened to be on October 1st, how many years ago?
1979.
In 1979, you had an accident,
Yes.
which resulted in you being classified as a quadriplegic.
That's correct.
Which normally means, Judy, when they told you that,
That's it.
that's in using a wheelchair,
They said no movement, nothing.
but
A
you,
nursing home
A
if we were
nursing home?
lucky.
and you're a fighter.
Yes, I spent
Definitely.
2 months in the hospital, and after an operation, I was transferred down to Green Springs, Ohio, a rehabilitation center. I spent over a year there as an inpatient and commuted back and forth twice a week for 3 years
The
to
result
continue
was,
my physical therapy.
and the result was with your physical therapy that you can, for example, I can congratulate you on your deer, you can move your arms.
That's correct.
That's opened up a whole world.
Definitely.
hasn't it, Judy?
Definitely. You can pull a trigger.
He can pull a trigger.
Makes a difference.
You can drive a car.
Yes, I have vehicles equipped with hand controls.
Could you shoot a bow?
No, not a recurve or compound bow.
Because you don't have the muscles to pull that back.
That's
Could
right.
you develop those muscles?
No, I still maintain a program of lifting weights, just to maintain what I have gotten back. But as far as the muscles that the atrophy and everything has set into, I will no longer regain those.
But you do have a lot of skills, even though you have to use a wheelchair.
Right.
A hunter and fisherman who, Don was, you had your decoys and gun in the car the day you had your accident.
That's right. I was going up to Fairgrove, Michigan. That's where we was working. It's up in the Thumb area, and there was we already had plenty of land to hunt on if we just was looking for a rainy day.
Well, that's the type of thing that we deal with in Outdoors Forever. In fact, you two have been very important coming to our meetings, giving hope to a lot of other people. And I hope that we're going to add a lot more hope to your future. And one of our goals in Outdoors Forever is to get some of this land reopened up to people who qualify with the vehicles, so Don Basie can look at a sign that says, open to hunting, and it truly will be open to him too. They say real men don't eat quiche. We have quiche here. No, macho men eat this kind of quiche. This is
have to.
venison Mexican quiche, which Dennis Lynn from Muskegon contributed last year and came in as a runner-up in our venison division, wasn't it?
No, appetizers.
Of the appetizers for our wild game cooking contest. This is the venison Mexican quiche. Has refried beef. Well, it has all kinds of things in it.
It does, and it's actually, the shells will make a crust, the tortilla shells here, instead of, you know, how your quiche usually has a rolled out crust. He has used the tortilla shells, which is quite clever. And then you've got tomatoes.
Eggs,
and
onion, milk.
Yep, and your hamburger, red hot sauce.
You have what?
Venison burger.
Venison burger.
Red hot sauce and red peppers.
Could use-
Refried beans and cheese, and it's all grated.
You could use a lot more peppers than
Well, you
put
say
in.
you could.
You say this
think
is
it's
hot. I don't.
plenty good.
I
Right.
think it could use more.
You're gonna put this refried beans going on top of the cheese.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can put hot sauce and red peppers. Now you can actually see, they look hot. To me, they just signify
I
hotness.
tell you, what, you get a bottle of those that's been on the shelf for a little while, and they really lose their zing.
Yeah, they do. You need the fresh ones, and you can really tell a difference.
And another thing, when you eat a lot of them like I do, you need more of them. You build
Get
up
addicted.
build up an immunity.
And red hot sauce here. Now, you can sprinkle as much on as you want. I was trying to be liberal, but it didn't quite work out that way.
You did your normal tiny bit of hot sauce.
That's what I'm used to.
She was being reasonable again.
Now, you can actually
There's
see.
the fat, the little
That's
specks of fat. And that's what you don't want to see a lot of
Definitely.
in venison burger.
Definitely. And it is actually the ground fat from the venison, because this didn't have any extra added to it.
No pork fat.
No. none.
Well, if it's, the shoulder fat is fairly mild. In fact, I like it. It tastes like lamb.
Okay, now you're just going to put your venison burger on top of the beans, and then salt and pepper. And you can add more hot peppers and
Well,
red sauce if you want
Yeah,
to. here.
that's where it goes at that point.
Yep.
And that's what I'd add on. A
More
little
refried beans. Actually, it's kind of like a casserole. And then onions.
That wasn't very many onions either.
I knew the hot sauce and hot peppers were there. Okay, now this is just your eggs and milk, and this is actually going to settle everything here. It's going to cook it and hold it all together.
And that's basically what a quiche.
That, exactly. Well,
Yes,
basically
sir.
eggs, yes.
And here it is. After it's been cooked and baked and set in the cabin, waiting for us to get around to it, it doesn't look as good as it really is. And look at Bob. You're sitting back.
Content.
You want another big slice?
Yeah. I mean, I could eat this stuff all night. This is great stuff, and it's not all that hot. As a matter of fact,
It isn't.
I would really have pumped maybe a little jalapeno to it, or a little bit more, or whatever.
Yeah.
I'd have really warmed it up so I'd sing like a wolf afterwards.
Oh, yeah.
You would have.
Well, I tell you, Dennis Lynn, you did a commendable job. It was rated as the #2 recipe in the appetizer category. It's available in the Outdoor Digest and in our cookbook. Great idea for venison burger.
Super idea.
Do you have any venison burger reports yet? Have you got any venison
I haven't,
burger?
but you have. Okay, load it
Okay,
on.
no, there's still another weekend. Another weekend, get out and enjoy it, folks. Whether you hunt or just get outdoors, it's a great place to be. Have a good, happy, safe Thanksgiving weekend, and we'll see you next week. And probably eats meat, and that bird will vanish. In this case, the brush and twigs that would prevent a clean shot also screen us from good view by the turkey, but by making a move at such close range, well, that would really be difficult while hunting. But moments like this make turkey hunting one of the ultimates in excitement in the hunting world. Just getting that close to a gobbler is a big accomplishment. Now, hunters take a little over 2,000 gobblers each spring in Michigan. Both Bob and I got our gobblers this October in the UP during the special fall hunt. But hunter interest showed that spring is a much more popular time for turkey hunting in this state. To control the harvest, you must have a permit. Applications will be available during the month of January. I tell you, taking nothing from the eagle, I'd vote for the wild turkey, my favorite bird in Michigan outdoors.